Hey YouTube, it's Taylor again from Taylor Talks Tales, back with another book review today, which I'm excited about because it's on a Stephen King book. I am a huge Stephen King fangirl. Ever since I was 11 years old, I remember picking up The Stand and just falling in love with it. It was one of the, actually at the time it was the biggest book I'd ever read, and just got super sucked into it. Just fell in love with the way he told stories, and maybe I was a little on the young side to have read that book, but ultimately it just changed my life and it was just so amazing. And since then I've been a big Stephen King fan. I try to read all of his books as I can. There's still quite a few that I haven't gotten a chance to read yet, and this was one of them. It's been on my list, not super high, mainly because for whatever reason I would just see the cover and just not really want to pick it up, but then ultimately I found it at Half Price Books and, was like, oh, I'm gonna grab this. I also grabbed Dolores Claiborne, which is also another Stephen King book I haven't read yet. But this is The Eyes of the Dragon. So I had no expectations about this. I don't know actually anyone in my personal life who's read it. So I was just kind of like, well, I knew it was some kind of fantasy. I think maybe that was why I kind of didn't pick it up, because I tend to gravitate towards Stephen King's horror books or like his short stories or like The Green Mile or some of his, he's an amazing storyteller and I appreciate his non-horror works too. But I just wasn't sure how like this would work. And I actually really enjoyed it a lot. I definitely think it's written for a younger audience in mind, and he did actually write it for his daughter Naomi, who was probably like preteen. I think she was like 12 or 13 at the time, and he dedicated the book to her. And you can kind of tell, and it's not bad. It almost reads almost like a fairy tale. You've got your narrator, which could be Stephen King himself, or just an unknown narrator who can occasionally like puts in some thoughts and ideas and stuff like that. And it chronicles a kingdom called Delaine, and you have King Roland and his two sons, Peter and Thomas, and a lot of it just really has to deal with their relationship, and the fact that the king dies and it gets pinned onto Peter. And the two brothers are very different. Peter is he's the stronger brother in like all aspects of his character. He's smart, knows himself, he's the rightful king. But he ends up getting imprisoned because he gets, everyone thinks that he killed him, even though it was actually the evil magician Flag, who is Randall Flagg, who has moments in the Dark Tower series and, of course, The Stand. So Stephen King's kind of doing his big mythology that he has, and I definitely, recommend reading up on that. I might even do a video on it about how a lot of his works do connect together. And in fact, this is really supposed to take place in the same world as the Dark Tower, but years and years before. And disclaimer, I've only read the first couple of books of the Dark Tower series a long time ago, and I've been wanting to get through and eventually reread everything because I did enjoy the concept and really loved it a lot. And earlier this year I read The Talisman, and also got me sort of inspired to be like, I need to get back into the Dark Tower, it's really good. So it pretty much follows that, and Stephen King doesn't necessarily bring anything new to the fantasy genre with this. There's definitely some tropes, and it's like very kind of 80s in feel with some of the tropes. At the same time, there's like a lot of like small little details that he brings to the story that are interesting and unique, and of course he has his, the characters and the way he narrates does make it stand out from just, your basic generic high fantasy story. And it's also really interesting to sort of see this side of Randall Flagg, because Randall Flagg is like, puts the Joker to shame. Like, I'm really excited for the Stand series that's going to be coming out, because I feel like it needs, I think it's going to be really well done, and I'm very, very excited for it. And Randall Flagg is just, he's evil, bad, and you get this more of a character kind of slice of him in this. And it's, ultimately about sort of brothers and figuring things out, and it very much like, I feel like it's the story you could read to your children. Like, I could picture myself just, sitting down one night and reading this to a kid. I think it would be a good way to introduce Stephen King to kids who are fairly young and maybe don't want horror, or are, you know, I mean, because it's in fairly straightforward writing style as well. So I think it's easy to just hand this to, you know, a kid, kind of like The Hobbit. I think there's a little bit of comparisons to it, and, you know, definitely like kind of book where you're sick and you want someone to read it to you, or you just want to read in bed. I think this one would be a good shot. So for me, I would probably give it about 4 out of 5 stars. Really, really enjoyed it. I think there are just a few things that kept it from being ultimately a 5-star read, but I'm glad that I own a copy. Picked this up for like $1, so I'm glad that I've got it, and I'm adding to my Stephen King collection because my goal is to have every single one of his books, just because I'm a big fangirl. So let me know if you've read this, or if you have any questions. I'll probably do a little bit more of a spoiler review in the future. So, you know, let me know. Comment, rate, subscribe, and if you have any suggestions or tips about somebody being new to BookTube, I'd love to hear them. And thank you so much for watching my video, and have a great day. Happy reading.